Back during the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, one of the last games that was teased was a sequel to the 2003 GameCube title, Kirby Air Ride, now being called Kirby Air Riders. See, it's totally different now because they put an R and an S in the title. And sure, some people in the trailer thought we were gonna get something a little bit different.
There's no way, sorry, there's no way. Wait.
What?
My general first impression was... why? I'm not saying Kirby Air Ride was a bad game, but far from it. The controls may be a little funky to get used to, but it's got some fun tracks and absolute banger mode, and it sticks out compared to other racing games like Mario Kart. But can you really judge my reaction? I mean, most people only remember this game because of City Trial, and let's be completely honest, that mode carries this one game. So with this new game coming out, and with some of the creative minds of people like Sakurai at the helm, I thought I would give some general hopes/predictions that I would like to see in Kirby Air Riders. But before we get into our general predictions, let's see what Kirby Air Ride is really all about. Just a quick overview. So Kirby Air Ride is a racing game where you travel on your Warp Star or various other vehicles in a variety of game modes. The first mode is simply titled Air Ride, where it's mainly just the standard race. Unlike most other racing games, this one has an auto acceleration which keeps you pushing forward, similar to racing games like Sonic Riders. Weird, they both have ride in the name, huh? The controls are very simple. All you need is a control stick to move and the A button to do all sorts of actions, like charging up a boost, activating certain objects on the track, and most importantly, inhaling enemies to get copy abilities. These are like the items of the game, and they're all on a timer of how long you can use them. Fire can shoot fire, tornado can spin into opponents to cause them this, sleep is obviously a hindrance. These abilities can really affect the way the race is determined. You can also glide off of ramps and spin to knock opponents away. There's only 9 tracks in the game, and one of them is unlockable, so keep that in mind. Top right is the second mode in the game, and it's a lot more simple compared to the last one. Once again, you have an auto acceleration on a flat track, and you go around multiple laps. There's only 2 types of vehicles, and these vehicles only change the way how you're able to steer. There's also tons of items that spawn that can range from bombs, hammers, boosters, and even hindrances. There's 7 track types in total, mostly deriving from some sort of world theme. Heh. Yeah, driving. Vehicle humor. Be cautious though, the controls are very loose, so it might be very easy to miss a turn or slam yourself into a wall and end up even driving backwards. The last mode, of course, you know it, you'll love it, City Trial. You spawn up in a large open city where you can collect all sorts of trinkets before the timer expires. You can collect stats to increase your overall performance, extra vehicles that you can hop off and drive around, and you can find hidden passages for more goodies. Even random events can show up during the allotted time period to spice up the match, like bosses, meteors, you get the drill. And at the end, you have one of many different challenges the players have to partake in, ranging from standard and drag races to jumping competition to even a fight to the death. This mode is truly incredible. It's a gift that keeps on giving, so much so that it was repurposed for Smash Bros. On the 3DS titled Smash Run, and that literally carried that game for a long time. But other than those 3 modes and a few dozen challenges that you can try to complete, and by a dozen challenges I mean, oh my god, there's so many of them, that's kind of a whole game. For 2003 standards, it's a pretty enjoyable game that you can play with your friends, and completionists have a lot to do to go for 100%. But as I said before, City Trial just kind of carries the game for me, and probably for a lot of other people. The standard air ride mode isn't bad, it just feels a little samey after a while, especially with only 9 tracks. Most other racers at the time have at least 16. And I'm also not a big fan of all the vehicles. Some of them are really hard to control. And to me, and this might just be a personal thing, the controls feel a little too simple. Like, I get it, it's easy to pick up and play with your friends who don't know how to play the game, but did we really need everything set to the A button? 3 other buttons don't even get used at all. Plus, unlocking everything can take quite a long time. Top Ride is fine, but once again, with the limited amount of tracks and customizations, make this side mode more like a one-time deal and you move on back to peak City Trial. But even with all those flaws, I still think the game has a lot of charming moments. But with Kirby Air Riders slowly approaching, I think we can make a few tweaks to make it a little bit more enjoyable. I I know a lot of people like the controls of the game, and I don't want to get rid of all of its simplicity, but I do want to change a few mechanics. First, I don't want everything controlled with just the A button. It makes certain actions have priority over others, and it can be quite frustrating. So let's start off as simple by just putting the inhale button to one of the other face buttons, X or Y to be more specific. When you have a copy ability, I think you should be able to activate it by pressing X for attack in front, and the Y button for attack from behind. I just find it weird that I can't defend myself when I'm in first, and just having two applications for an ability makes it feel a little bit more distinct, in line with the more modern Kirby games, where one ability can have all sorts of purposes. You can spin with the original game by tapping the control stick, and you're able to spin someone out. But here, I think spinning should just be delegated to the B button, and have a bit of a cooldown system. Just rotating your stick around when I'm already driving and pushing forward just feels a little weird to me, and I often rarely use it. And even when I do use it, I accidentally jump off a ramp and slam my head straight down to the track below. It can be quite hard. But just dedicating it to a button and having a cooldown makes it a lot more simple to use and probably have a bit more application. Charging with the A button as well with the triggers feels just fine to me and shouldn't really need to be changed. As for top race, getting bumped into a wall and swerving the opposite direction can be very annoying, especially if you're just trying to get achievements. So how about when you hit a wall, you actually bounce back a little bit to reset your position to get a better angle at turning. I think the tracks need a little bit more variety inside of them, or just feel a little bit longer. Some tracks actually do have quite a lot of variety in there, and I actually do like that, and I want more of that, especially the steel track in particular. That might be one of my favorites. But I do have a little bit of problem with some other tracks. Like, the biggest thing is that the gimmicks aren't really explained well until you actually experience it yourself, which is a good thing to encourage replayability, but for a while I had no idea why the fire stages had random magma splurts show up, until after about like 5 races, it's the volcanoes that erupt after bumping into it several times. But just a short explanation on the menu goes a long way from guiding the player to what to expect. Same for the items too. Sometimes I would just get hit with a random bomb and I have no idea what happened, until I read the wiki and just realized, oh, there are hidden bombs. I wish I knew that sooner. That could just be a skill issue though. So just also a list of the items that you could find would be pretty good to make things a little bit more enjoyable. City Travel on its own doesn't really need changing for the most part, mostly just general gameplay bugs and fixes. But most of the time, I think I've enjoyed City Trial just as its own. But I do want to add more to it. So speaking of that, let's move on to the new things I would love to see in the new game. The first big thing I want is to obviously add more tracks. 9 is not going to cut it for a Switch 2 games, especially if Mario Kart World has 30 to possibly like 200 if we're talking other modes. And considering Kirby is the fan service champion in Nintendo Square, especially with more recent titles, we can pull a lot of inspiration from other Kirby games, but keeping the main 9 is already good enough, even if some of them feel looking a little unfinished. So here's just a few ideas I had at the top of my head. We can have a track based inside King Deity's castle or around the courtyard of it. We have a ton of levels that we could use as inspiration. Maybe a track around the Halberd from Superstar and Superstar Ultra would be fun. Maybe base a couple of tracks off the spooky house levels in Triple Deluxe, or the casino levels in Planet Robobot. Or if you don't want the casino levels, maybe just have one of those levels based inside one of those giant robotic legs at each end of the world of Robobot. You know, just to be a little bit more of a unique factory track with those giant ice cones, trap doors, etc, etc. Forgotten Land has a couple of races based on the mouthful mode in the card that's already in that game. Maybe base a track around that, or even the festival stage in World 3. Obviously, Fountain of Dreams from Kirby Adventures would be an iconic track to race upon. Maybe even include a cameo of Nightmare in the back or something, or even part of the track. Maybe have a themed track of one of the worlds in Kirby 64, like Shiver Star, Rock Star, or even Triple Star. Have a track based all around Yarn to inspire off of Kirby's Epic Yarn, or even a Great Cave Offensive track. It may not work for Smash Bros., but I think it would be awesome for a racing game. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Give me enough time and effort and I'll think of 100 more. At least reach high into the double digits for tracks. 20 or 30 would be just fine. Maybe pull a Mario Kart and have a mirror mode. You can do so much there, and yet we're still not done. I want to talk more about copy abilities, because in the base game we had 11, or 10 if you don't want to count sleep. I mean, don't sleep on it. It's a good roster of abilities, but I think we can add a few more. How about the mirror copy ability? It won't be attack, but rather it'll be more of a defensive item that can reflect other projectiles towards the person who threw it. Or what about Spider, which will throw out a spider web to slow down opponents who passes by it. And maybe if you land a direct hit, it will trap them in a spider web like with Freeze. Surprisingly, Hammer isn't already in the base game. What if you squish enemies when you pass by or knock them away? Maybe with the drawback of hitting hard but moving slower in return. Maybe have Cutter show up to being like the boomerang flower in Mario Kart games. Throw it forward and bounce back and use it a couple of times. Maybe bring back some niche abilities, like Laser, just being a barrage of lasers that can actually bounce off the terrain. It didn't work well for a 2D game, but I think for a 3D racing game, that would be really, really intense. Or like Rocket for a projectile that homes in on enemies. Or maybe we could have UFO show up to you as a rare ability that will only spawn in lower placements, and it would be like a catch-up mechanic like the Bullet Bill. Again, the possibilities are endless. Maybe even make exclusive abilities to this game like Dream Buffet. Of course, rarity would go into play here, but I trust the devs to make that. But for my next trick, I would have to ask, please make the Dream Friends playable, pretty please! Look, I know the basic game mechanics will be thrown out the window if you include extra playable characters aside from Kirby, King Dedede, and Meta Knight, who were exclusive to the free ride mode. But come on! You could certainly add them with some sort of handicap. Like, yeah, they'll permanently have an ability, but in return they'll have a cooldown or a limited amount of times you can use it on each lap. Or even affect the performance of their stats, like being slower and have less HP. Anything for just a little more variety. You already have the models from Star Allies, just touch them up and bam, new character to play as. As for which ones I would expect to see, characters like Dedede, Meta Knight, Marks, Gooey, and Magolor are most likely a given at this point due to their popularity and being included in Kirby Fighters 2. But give us some other ones, like Suzy, Taranza, Adeline Ribbon, Elfilin, and DeRoach. God, please give me DeRoach. I want to see my cool-ass mouse friend again. He's so cool. I will sell my firstborn child for him. And once again, they can default to certain power-ups, like here. I made this in 30 minutes. It's not that hard. I was also talking to one of my friends about this, and we agreed that it would be pretty neat to have exclusive vehicles for them too, like Magolor with the Lore Star Cutter, or Suzy on her mech, or the funny mouse on the airship that they had in Mass Attack. So much potential here. All you have to do is just a little bit of game balancing. And finally, I personally want to see the toggles back on races. It's so funny to do 99 lap races to waste my life even more than writing this one part of the script. It is so unnecessary and probably going to be in the base game anyways, but trust me, I think it would be funny. As for Top Ride, similar story here. More variety in the tracks and level design could go a long way. Maybe pull a Super Mario Kart and have multiple different track layouts for an easy, normal, and hard variant. Bring in more than just 7 tracks. You can have a circus theme, a mountain theme, a space theme that is in light theme, a castle theme, or even a retro theme that's based off of the Kirby Dream Land games. By just including those ones with the ones already in the base game, that's already 30 tracks for one mode already. If you want to double on that replayability factor, maybe have an item toggle menu, not to only get rid of certain annoying items that you have trouble with, but just select one item and increase the amount of rarity that shows up. I want to have all bombs everywhere, or giant food everywhere, or mystery boxes, because who knows what you'll get out of those. And I guess the one other thing I would say is give a little bit more vehicle variety for the Top Ride mode. Just a little bit, not too much though. And finally, there's City Trial. Again, this mode only needs a few tweaks, it's already almost perfection, such as giving us more options for controls, like with the idea I mentioned with Top Ride mode. Granted, this idea isn't original. The recently released mod by Uncle Punch does the same thing with Kirby Air Riders Deluxe. Oh, by the way, check that out, by the way. It's really cool. But full customization really goes a long way. Just add a few more things like big bosses or more wacky events just to make things really chaotic. But my insane, unreal expectations is having more City Trial maps. Not too many though, maybe 2 more. If we're keeping with the city theme for City Trial, how about having a city based on the city levels in Planet Robobot, both in the daytime and nighttime variant? Stuff you can pull from the Waddle Dees driving cars, or maybe even the Robobot armor showing up and causing all sorts of mayhem. As for all the other maps, maybe an area based off Forgotten Land, like with the abandoned malls, the carnival I mentioned earlier, or maybe a snowy themed area, just to remind the people to buy the new expansion pack coming soon. I got your back, Hal. But yeah, those are the main modes I want to change, but there's two other modes, besides the achievement system, that I want to talk about. One being a given, and the other being probably. Asking for online play seems like a no-brainer and is obviously going to be part of the base game, but something like that could still be easily messed up, so just keep it simple. Give us the many options for races in City Trial, have separate rooms for friends or strangers, have an easy to fall ranking system that encourages people coming back online even if one character is significantly better than the others, and that's just about it. Just, again, online will make this game glow up so much more. But I want to talk about my final talking point that I want to add. Sorry if this one was really short, I just really want to play online with Kirby Air Ride. Now, a story mode for a racing game is very uncommon, or if it is common, it will most likely be very repetitive, but I mostly would like to see more single-player content in the game. Base Air Ride just doesn't have that unless you are going for all the achievements, so an additional story mode might be a good incentive to easily learn the controls, plus unlock a ton of things for the online and your friends. Now, we don't need a convoluted story where Kirby has to gather the magic onion rings by racing his friends and suddenly a giant moth demon comes from the sky and we have to kill it. Maybe something simple like King Deity is hosting a race to see who's the fastest in the land. This will get everyone to race around with a heart's content. There could be some narrative story with some cutscenes tying everything together, but the main aspect is driving first, maybe doing a couple missions here and there from the final events from City Trial, and maybe even having a boss race or something. The good timeline is Diddy Kong Racing, the neutral timeline is Crash Team Racing, the bad timeline is nothing at all. Or if you don't want a story mode, maybe just take a page from Smash Ultimate or other fighting games and have classic mode themed races, where each of the main characters can be unlocked doing these. Have it tailored to a character that you're playing as and maybe have a 3 to 5 races per character like in a Grand Prix. Throw in the events like at the end of City Trial to make it a little bit more variety, and have a final rival race or boss race. Just having single player content goes a long way by making more people who don't like to race online to strive for. And as for my last sort of thing, customization is a big thing. You already have the different type of vehicles that the special Dream Friends could use. We already have multiple different Kirby outfits, but hey, I would like more like costume variety. We already have alternate costumes in Star Allies, so we could just take it there, put it as unlockables in the achievement system, and bada bing bada boom, you have an incentive to go after the achievements. But above all else, I just want the game to be both enjoyable for old-time fans of Air Ride, to the new people who just want to take a break from getting Mario Karted in World. And considering Sakurai is at the wheel of this project, and with the grand majority of his games most likely being fun and exciting, I have a good feeling that this is going to be a banger of a game. I will say Air Ride is not a perfect game. I didn't even talk about the insane amount of jank this game has, that it's both hilarious and infuriating. But it does hold a special place in my heart for being the first Kirby game I've ever played. Or I just sit around in City Trial and have my two brothers play as I just watched. Alone. And bored. But now, I'm an adult, and I want to enjoy more racing games. And of course, having to make more videos on this game, and to share to my loyal subscribed viewers, who I know who is subscribed. Anyways, thanks for watching, and if you have a good idea for this type of game, I would love to hear it in the comments. And that'll do it. So I'll see you next Direct where they'll announce the game and just have any excuse to spend $70 on the funny cool mouse thief. Seriously, put him in the game.